So this NBA season, there have been teams that have proven themselves contenders, some teams that have disappointed, and some others that we just can't figure out yet.
Tom Thibodeau said after the game last night, quote, "We're finding different ways to lose." And tonight, more of the same for the Timberwolves, whose hearts are broken.
But for the Miami Heat, it seems to be a combination of the last two. From the beginning of the off-season, it was clear that Miami were a team that was never going to contend for a title, with the loss of some key players and a poor free agency period not helping their cause. The Miami Heat have pretty much matched the expectations of most NBA fans, and have wound up finding themselves in 12th spot in the Eastern Conference at just over the halfway point of the season. Many people, including myself, believe that Miami would struggle to piece together many wins this year, and they have only managed a record of 19 wins and 30 losses for the season so far. But is it possible that the Heat could still have a chance of climbing higher in the standings and perhaps sneaking into playoff contention? If the second half of January was anything to go by, then the Heat are arguably the hottest team in the NBA right now, and have soared to a perfect 8 wins from their last 8 matches. Today, we'll be discussing the Miami Heat's recent success and check out how they have managed to defeat teams such as the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Let's begin. First, here's a little bit of a backstory to the Heat's situation this season. So after the departure of Dwayne Wade in the offseason to the Chicago Bulls, and the loss of Chris Bosh to health concerns, the Heat roster seemed worryingly shallow, as there was not a single all-star caliber player contracted, and the only glimmers of hope were coming from point guard Goran Dragic, who had only ever averaged 20 plus points once in his career, a young and upcoming defensive-minded small forward Justice Winslow, who had shown some good signs in his rookie season on the defensive end, but was struggling on offense, shooting guard Dion, who had always struggled to provide quality minutes whilst playing with other stars, i.e. the Cavs and Thunder's all-star packed rosters, and he also was never a good shooter from the field. And finally, Hassan Whiteside, who at his best can be an elite rebounding and shot-blocking center who can average between 15 to 20 points per game. And beyond these 4 players, the lack of talent on this Heat roster was alarming, and from the beginning it seemed that the season was doomed. All signs were pointing towards a throwaway season that would land the Heat with a high pick in the upcoming 2017 NBA Draft. However, over the past 8 games, Miami have gone on an absolute tear and are perhaps attempting to revive their dead season. The Heat's resurgence can be largely credited to the contributions of both Dion Waiters and Goran Dragic, who during this span of games have combined to average 44.6 points and 11.4 assists. And while these stats have been averaged over an 8-game stretch, these numbers are really elite and are up there with the best backcourts in the league when you compare it to season averages. During this stretch of games, it's been noticeable that both of these players have been quite effective from both downtown and by driving towards the basket. Waiters has scored on a variety of nifty reverse layups in traffic, whilst Dragic has excelled with finishing at the rim through contact and also using Whiteside screens to attack off the dribble and create opportunities. Strangely enough though, Hassan Whiteside has dipped down to lower averages of just 11.6 points, 10.7 rebounds and 1.4 blocks during this stretch. Whilst these stats are not alarmingly low, it is a decrease on his loftier season averages. Although it must be said that his presence on defense was as good as ever. His size, height and shot blocking ability is a huge deterrent for opposition players who like to drive the lane. Whilst he only averaged 1.4 blocks per game during this stretch, his presence down low as well as the harassing defense that was coming off of the bench from Johnson and Reed caused all sorts of problems for opposition teams on offense. Their quality inside defense effectively forced these teams to look to their perimeter shooting to provide offense, which was their undoing. You see, during this win streak, Miami as a team have held the opposition to a combined 61 from 209 from downtown, which is, good for 29.2%. That is awesome defense. I mean, the league average this season from the 3-point line is 36%, meaning that Miami has done an excellent job defending the 3 during this stretch. Most notably, they held the Rockets to just 9 makes off 39 attempts, and also the Warriors went 8 of 30. We're talking about rank 1 and 2 in offensive efficiency in the entire league. Both Houston and Golden State also shoot above league average on the season from downtown, whilst also attempting the most in the league. So to hold off both of these teams' usual 3-point barrages and secure a win, is a testament to the Heat's defensive intensity and effort during these 2 outings. Oh, and did I mention the 2 seriously clutch buckets from Waiters against the Warriors?
Shot on the shot clock. And the 2, tough 3 for Waiters. Come on! In the hands of Waiters. 3 seconds left for 3 in the win. Yes!
And then a big dagger 3 against the Nets. Some of the best clutch shooting we've witnessed this season without a doubt. And you can probably assume in future situations that he will be the one taking the big shots at the end of close games. What I should also mention is the great bench play from James Johnson, Tyler Johnson and Wayne Ellington, who all during this stretch had at least one game of 15 plus points and were all consistent scoring threats whilst on the floor. James Johnson's rebounding and passing was also a pleasant surprise for the Heat, as he had multiple games with above 6 assists, which is a great effort from a big man coming off the bench. He has actually averaged 3 assists to go along with 11 points this entire season, meaning that the Heat have a player who they can rely on for consistent offense when the starters are out of the game. In conclusion, even after this great stretch of games, the fact remains that they are still 12th in the East. They are still 4.5 games back from the 8th place Charlotte Hornets, and I know that this video may have seemed like the Heat have gone on some extraordinary run in which they have suddenly been thrown back into contention, but in honesty, this video was made because I was glad to see a struggling NBA team fight back the way they have and piece together some really solid, unexpected wins against much more talented opponents. The NBA is always better when their marquee teams are competing at a higher level, so it's good to be able to talk about the resurgence of Heat basketball, and I hope to see them continue this good form towards the latter stages of the season. Do I honestly believe that they have what it takes to genuinely compete as the season continues to progress, and perhaps make a push for the playoffs? Well, no. I think that as of late their roster has been overachieving a little bit, and they will most likely fade out and finish between probably 10th and 14th. Although, if Waiters and Dragic can continue to provide solid scoring and playmaking from the guard spots, if Hassan can continue to be a shot-blocking extraordinaire, and if the bench led by James Johnson could continue to gel and stay competitive, I wouldn't count the Heat out just yet.